Hello everyone, welcome back to the series of Azure Infrastructure with Azure Biceps. This is our third video of this particular series. In this video, we will learn how do you write your very first Azure resource with the help of Azure Biceps. Hi, my name is Rakesh Suryavanshi and you are watching Be a Learner. Before we start, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get the notification for all my video which I'll be uploading on this channel. I have lots of video already uploaded. You can go through all of these on the topics like Azure, Terraform, DevOps, Kubernetes, Biceps. I do have the playlist as well which you can go through if you wish to on a specific topic. Let's first of all understand what are the different tools we need to start using the biceps. First of all, I would like to recommend to install a IDE tool which is Visual Studio Code or a VS Code. It is again a Microsoft IDE tool which is world's #1 IDE tool if you prefer writing infrastructure as code with Terraform, Biceps or any other technology. So go ahead and download this particular tool as per your operating system, whether it is Windows, Linux, macOS or any other. Next, you need to install Azure CLI because we are going to use certain number of CLI such as Azure CLI to log into our Azure subscription. We would also require to run some of the CLI which are basically a biceps command, which is again comes with the Azure CLI. So that's the one which we are going to use for this particular demonstration. So make sure you have the Azure CLI installed on your machine. After the installation of Azure CLI and Visual Studio Code, to install the biceps, you can run this Azure CLI command, which is az biceps install. That will install the biceps on the virtual machine. If you prefer to install a specific version of a biceps, then you can install the biceps by running az biceps install -- version and you can specify the specific version. For this demonstration, we are going to install the latest version of the biceps by running the very first command. So I have this Visual Studio Code downloaded on my machine. So first thing I'm going to do is I will create a new folder and open that particular folder in the Visual Studio Code so that we know that we are starting from the scratch by using a new folder. So here is the biceps folder which I'll be using for this demonstration. And you can see that this particular folder at the moment is blank. I do not have any file as such. I'll open a terminal. You can open a terminal by @ or you can right click, use this particular menu item, open integrated terminal. I have already copied Azure Biceps CLI installation command. You can just run this particular command here on the command window or the PowerShell window. Once you do that, it should be able to install the Azure Biceps CLI on your machine. You are good to go. To verify the biceps version, you can run the command az biceps version. Version is the command which will display the list, the current version which you have on your machine. So I'm using the latest version available as of date, which is 0.4. It is a latest generally available version provided by Microsoft Azure to support all the resource provider available within the Azure. For basically you can use this particular biceps version for the provisioning the resource in the production environment. Before the earlier version, which is 0.1 and 0.2 was the version which was not recommended for production, but this is the version which is recommended for production use. So we are good with that version. Now we need an extension to support our infrastructure as code writing skill in Visual Studio Code. So you can go to the extensions icon here in the Visual Studio Code, which is this one, and then search for Azure Biceps or just simply type biceps. This is the result, and then you can install the biceps extension. This is again an extension provided by Microsoft itself to provide the IntelliSense support for writing the infrastructure as code with biceps. I have already installed the extension on my machine. That's why you can see that I have the installation toggle button enabled. So if I go back to the extension again, then you would see that this the installed extension, I have the biceps listed down here. This is the one. That's all we need for the installation purpose. Let's start writing our very first resource, and I will give you a developer experience, what are things you need. First of all, I would like to create a storage account, for example. I hope you are already aware about the storage account. So that's the extension. As you create a file with the bicep extension, you can see that I have the bicep file icon available with my file type. Okay, now this is an empty file. I need to create a resource. I need to define what exactly type of resource I want. File name, any file name you can give. I have given the name so that I know what type of resource I want to create, but it's up to you which file you want to create. You can also give it a name like main.biceps, something like that if you prefer, but this is just for the demonstration. I'm just creating this particular file name. Okay, now this is the file. Let me go to the Azure portal. All right, I am into the Azure portal and we would like to create a storage account for our demonstration. So this is one of the storage account I have in my Azure subscription. Just to show you, if you are not aware about what is a storage account is a platform, is a service available within the Microsoft Azure, which you can utilize to store your data, which could be a file, blobs, queues, or table storage kind of a data, which you may want to store it in this particular platform as a service resource. This is the simplest resource which you can create with the very less configuration. That's what we are going to do. For the simplicity of just for the comparison of a storage account ARM template, I'm just clicking here for the export template so that we understand what exactly the kind of template we have available in form of the ARM template or in form of the JSON. So this is the example of my storage account template where I have a parameter which has the parameter as the storage account name, and then we have a variable block which is empty at the moment, and then we have a resource block which is basically defining the resource type for the storage account. Here we are defining the type and API version which is being used to define or create this storage account resource. And then we have a name of the storage account which is being used from the parameter which we have declared at the top. Later on, there is a location, tags, SKU, and some additional properties which is defined within the properties section of the storage account, such as the minimum TLS version, allowed block properties, and so on. So this is a typical storage account ARM template. Now, similar thing we would like to provision with the help of biceps. Now, if I would ask you to create a storage account by writing your own ARM template, without getting the IntelliSense to write an ARM template, then it's going to be really difficult for you to understand the syntax of ARM templates. Even though if it is a very simplest resource which is of a storage account, you can see that you have to remember the tags, like you need to have a double quote, then colon, then curly braces, and then after that there is a comma. So there is a full flash JSON content you need to remember, and then the references of each and every different section, for example reference of parameter sections or a variable section, or even maybe a link template of a reference or resource reference or any of the built-in function reference that you need to remember while writing it into the JSON syntax, which could be a really tedious job as a developer. Even though if you are an experienced developer, even I do not prefer writing the ARM template myself. I would rather prefer writing a code into the likes of Terraform instead of ARM template. Now, let's see how do we resolve this issue or this complexity by the help of biceps. Okay, so to create any resource with biceps, simply you need to type REC. If you are using the biceps for the very first time in the Visual Studio Code, and if you are not getting IntelliSense on your Visual Studio Code, it might be usual or it might be obvious in some cases if you're using a machine which is a lower specification, because the IntelliSense itself will take some time to load and to provide the result. So don't worry about it, just give it some time. For the very first time it might take time, but once you have the considering you have the IntelliSense available, once you type the REC, which is for resource, you would have, and then followed by dash sign, and then use this storage. Let's say in this case we would like to provision the storage account, so I will provide the storage, and after that you select it. If you are trying to create a storage account, you can see that here in the IntelliSense, this is what the just simple configuration for the storage account it provides. So this is it's trying to show you, if you select this option, this is what it's trying to give you as a result. Similarly, if I select any other option, it will try to change the IntelliSense. For example, it's for the SQL Server database import biceps. This is what it is going to give you. So depending upon the selection you make, that's what the IntelliSense it will give, which says that if you select any specific type of resource here, that's what the result it will produce. So let's go ahead and select the storage account or the storage section, and this is what it's going to produce, like it has shown in the IntelliSense. So here I have the resource, which is the type which I'm creating. So I'm creating a resource type. I'm trying to create a resource type with the biceps, and this is the instance name of the resource. I can give any name. So in this case I am creating a storage account, so I would like to call it as in the storage account itself, but you can give any name. For example, you could also give the name of like my storage account, or let's say project storage account, or whatever project name is. If your project name is Microsoft, let's say Microsoft storage account, for example. So you can give any name to here. The next section we have it here is the type of the resource. So if you see the ARM template again, so if you see this ARM template again and just try to compare, this is what the type is. For the storage account type resource, if you have to write the ARM template by your own, you have to remember what is the type of my resource. Like in this case, in the storage account, the type is Microsoft.storage / the storage accounts. That's the type. But as soon as with the help of the biceps IntelliSense, you don't need to worry about the type, and you have the supports to the various type depending upon the resource type you are choosing. So in this case we have chosen the storage account. That's the reason this particular type is been selected. Now followed by the @ and then we have the API version. So if I again compare the ARM template, so this is the API version which is being configured with my ARM templates. Going back, this is the API version. By default, it has selected the latest available API version for the storage account resource type. By the way, each version of these API version may be different for the different type of resource. So for the storage account, this is the latest API version, but if you have selected any other resource type, the API version could be different for the different type of resource. Now the second thing to remember here is each resource type may have multiple version of their API. So if you may want to refer any different API version or the API version which is of the past date, then you do have the IntelliSense. You just remove it and press Control space, and that will give you the list of API version available for that specific resource. So for example, I may want to select maybe let's say 2019 601. So based on this specific API version, whatever different number of parameters available that you would be able to configure. Okay, so this is what this very first line talks about. Then we have a equal sign, and after the equal sign followed by equal sign, we have a curly braces to start with and curly braces to end with. So if you're not getting this colored curly braces, then you may want to install the extension bracket pair, so which I have used it. So that's the extension which I'm using to get a different color for all my brackets. That's again just a fun fact, you may want to use it. Okay, so because of this extension I'm getting a different color. Here I'm getting purple, here getting yellow. Okay, so next, within this curly braces, these are the different attributes which you can use for the resource type. So by default it has given basically a resource type attribute. For example, for storage account, these are the mandatory parameters I have. For example, the name, it's a mandatory, obviously. The location, and it's using the resource group location by default. So whichever resource group this resource or the storage account resource you are going to deploy, it's going to take the location of that particular resource group. But if you do want to use, if you don't want to use this resource group location, you can change this particular location as well. Next, you have the mandatory parameter as an kind parameter, which is by default the value recommended value is to storage v2, but you could have if you want, you can choose a different value as well. And the last property, which is a mandatory property for the storage account, is SKU, and you may want to change this KU to, let's say, premium LRS to, let's say, general purpose LRS, or just LRS, standard LRS, things like that. Okay, so these are the only mandatory property. So once you select a resource, it gives you the configuration with the default mandatory properties. Simple and easy. Just I have run a single command and I was able to basically configure the storage account. Obviously I don't want the storage account to be created with the name, so I may want something like, let's say, proj, or let's say be loner. I can't have dashes, so 01 AU, okay, AUW for example. Okay, that's the one I may want to have it. Now if I run now this as is, that will create a storage account. But before I do that, I'll show you another way to create a storage account. So you may want to type resource. Okay, you don't want to, let's say, use IntelliSense. So what I'm going to do is I'll give a name str is for the storage, and then select in the single quote, just select the service, press control space, and then you may want to select the storage account. Just select the storage account and then press enter for choosing the specific API version. Once you select that, there is just press space sign space button, and that will give you an option. So you do have two options here. So option number first, you get the equal sign and then followed by a curly braces, and you would require to provide the different properties. Once you select a very first option, that's the one, and you need to basically have the different options. So here basically it's giving you another set of options providing upon the selection which you have made. So as of now I've selected equal, then I do have these many options. So what it is saying is, do you want to create this resource which is of type storage account with required properties? So this is the option by default selected. Once I select this option, it means it will fill the storage account block with all these required properties like it has done previously, correct? So if I do it like this, these are the required property I have for this storage account. Okay, now let's go ahead, and you can obviously fill in these properties like the way we have filled in. This time it hasn't filled in for you because we are manually trying to create it. Okay, now let's say we let's check about the different option. We do have the option as an if as well. So if you would like to run some condition before executing this particular resource block, for example, if you want to say if this is production, then only create a resource or the storage account. If it is non-production, then don't create this storage account. If that's the case, then you can use this if block as well. So you need to specify the conditional block. Obviously you need to specify condition 1 equal to 0, for example. Obviously this is not a right condition, so it's going to fail, for example, or maybe I will say if it is true, for example. Okay, so it's always going to run anyways. So that's the one. Once you select that, you need to provide the different properties depending upon the resource. So even though I'm not using the IntelliSense here, I can fill in all my properties to the specific resource. Okay, I'll show you in a moment, but let's look at some of the other options as well. So you do have the option like for an index, which means that you may want to have a for with the for loop with the index property. So that will become a for loop like something like that. You can see in the IntelliSense, it will have a for loop with the item within the all item, and then it will run through each of the index if you want to do that as well. So for example, if you want to create multiple storage account with the given input parameter, then you may want to use the for each loop or the for loop. You do have the for loop with certain condition as well. For example, if you want to create number of storage account, but you do have some conditions. For example, if your list has 5 items and matching the condition, only 3 items would require to create the storage account, 2 of them requires to be ignored. So you may want to use this particular for loop with the specified condition. And then you have a simple for loop without the index, which will iterate each item of your list, and then it will provision a specific resource type, which is in this case the storage account. And at the last, you don't want to specify anything, you just want to start writing your infrastructure biceps code by your own. So let's select that. Once I select this option, I can anytime go ahead and press Control space, and that will give me the list of properties which I can configure with this resource type, which is the storage account in this case. So these are the different properties which I can specify. For example, kind. Obviously, what are the different options available with kind? You can see that I'm getting the IntelliSense with the values, possible values, which I can choose for the kind property. So isn't it cool? I don't need to go to the documentation for the storage account that what is the value I need to refer, or what is the value I can refer for the storage account kind property. So let's say select this. Next, I will enter and then again press Control space, and you can specify the location property as well. So here location is a type of a string, so you will not get the IntelliSense for the list of resources or the list of locations available, because in the most of the cases you may want to either choose the location of the resource group. So that's the preferred option I would like to go. Again, name, you are not going to get the IntelliSense because the name is something which you may want to decide for your storage account type. So let's call it as the storage demo 9978. So I just trying to make sure that the name is going to be unique. SKU, again, this is a object type of property. So once you press space, you can see that you are getting this particular option, required properties. So it means that this SKU property has the some required property option. It means this is a object type which has some underneath required properties. You can't ignore this particular attribute because it required by provisioning this particular resource. So I'll select this option, required property, and then I'll make sure that I'll press this, and this is what it is. So now you need to specify what is the SKU type. I'll press again Control space, and this is what the option I'm getting. So you could have the premium LRS, GRS, RAGRS, whichever option you would like to prefer. I will go for the cheapest option, standard LRS. So that's another option. Let's check if we have any other properties available with SKU, it says no other option available for the SKU, so you are good with that. Let's see what all other options we have with the storage account. We have the depends on block. So now depends upon, like we know that depends on is to set the dependencies, like in the storage account or like in the ARM template or with the Terraform. We know that we can set the dependency of the resources. For example, if I'm creating a network interface and the virtual machine and the data disk, so I may want to set the depends on block onto the virtual machine with the network interface, because I want to make sure until unless a network interface is available, I don't want to create a machine. Similarly, a data disk or the data disk, I only want to create after creating the virtual machine. So by having the depends on block, I can set the dependency of the resources. It will make sure that the execution of the resources will happen according to the dependency of the resources which it has been set. Okay, so there are two different type of dependency which you can set, implicit dependency or explicit dependency. So Terraform and biceps both will know implicitly how to set the dependency depending upon the resource property which you refer within the different resource. You would also have the option to set the explicit depends upon block. We can discuss this particular topic in detail if needed, but for now let's understand this is one of the option which is kind of optional. I don't want to set my storage account is not dependent upon any other properties, so I can leave this particular property optional as is. Okay, this is again a manage identity. Is to, if you would like to set the identity for your storage account, you can use the identity block. Again, this is an object type of property, so you need to select the required property option because it has some required property option. So the identity itself has a different types option. You could have a none, system assigned, system user assigned, or a user assigned type. So depending upon the type you choose, you could go for the different options. So let's say if I choose a user assigned type, then you need to specify the user assigned identity, which is the resource ID of my user assigned identity, which could be something like that, for example. Okay, so this is how you can specify the identity within the storage account. Again, this is optional property because you not all the storage account would have the manage identity enabled. Okay, then you have a property section. Just to compare with our template, you can see that here this is what we have covered so far. Kind is by default we have selected, and now you have the different properties section available with the storage account. Okay, so let's see what are the different options available we have. So here in the property, if I press control space, then I do have this object type, because the property is again object type. So you can specify, you can choose this particular option, which is a curly braces, and once I press control space again, these are the different properties which I can specify with the storage account. Again, this property block itself is not mandatory because each and every property would have its own default value. So depending upon the type you choose, it would have its own default value. For example, existier or default value for the existier is hot. So even though if you don't specify, it will become hot only. But let's say if you would like to override some of the default value, for example, in this case, I would like to allow the public IP address, or I would like to block public IP address. So this is what it is. I don't want to allow. So this is the default value I'm going to choose. Similarly, depending upon the type of property you want to specify override, you can override it here from this particular section. Okay, so once you do that, this is your storage account ready. So now we have gone through all the options to provision the storage account. One of the simplest option, you choose the IntelliSense and then refer the default value or required property value. That will give you the fulfill values. You just need to change couple of properties and that's it. Okay, that you should be able to run it. That's about creating the resource. Now let's see how do we provision this particular resource into the into the into our Azure subscription. For that, I need to log into my Azure subscription, and what I'm going to do here is I will use AZ login, which is to log into my Azure subscription. Once you use the AZ login command, you need to specify which subscription you want to log in. With this account which I've selected, I just have one subscription, so by default that particular subscription will be selected. You can see that. But if you have multiple subscription associated with your account and you want to verify which account you are already connected, you can use AZ account space show, so that will display the current subscription which you are connected to. And if you would like to switch to different subscription, you can use AZ space account set double dash subscription, and then you can specify the subscription ID. So that's the subscription ID in this case, for example. So this is the command you can run that will set the subscription to the current context. Let me clear the window. Now next thing you need to run is you need to run the AZ deployment command. Before I run the deployment command, I would like to show you the AZ biceps build command. So what build command can do is it can generate or compile this biceps code and generate an ARM template outcome, which you can basically review, and you can verify whether you are the ARM template which biceps is going to use is correct or not, or is this what you are looking for basically. So let's run the AZ biceps build command. So if the build command requires the bicep files which you need to specify, so you can specify file name dash dash, or you can directly give the file name. So in this case the file name is story account, so this is the file. I just use the tab command to choose the file name, and then you can generate the biceps by entering here. So if I press enter, it will generate the biceps at the same directory where I am right now. So you can see that we have the JSON ARM template provision with the bicep build command. So if I just check that out and see what are the different sections we have, you can see that these are the different resource, the story account resource which we have provisioned just now. So if I just compare with these two sections, this is what I have. So this is my story account, two story account, and these are the two story account here with the ARM template. Okay, so this is how you can generate the ARM template with the build command. Now let's run the deploy command to run to create these story accounts. For this I need to run the AZ deployment group create, and then specify the resource group name, and then the name of the deployment which I would like to give. So the deployment name, I'll show you why do we need the deployment name, and then the URI or the file name. Basically in this case we are not going to use the URI, we need the template file name. So let's use this particular command. You don't need to run the build command to create the deployment or create the resource. It's just the verification purpose only. I just shown you why you can run the build and see the ARM template. For now I'm just deleting just to avoid any confusion. So that has been deleted. I'll run this command here, AZ deployment space group space create, can create it when the name of resource group. In this resource group, this is the name of my deployment, and this is the file name which is the bicep file name. That's it. I will run it and let's see if it is going to create a resource or start the deployment at least. So the deployment is running right now, and hopefully it should create the two-story account. And you can see that after completion of the deployment, I have got these output which is the output of the resource ID for my storage account. And if I go to the storage account resource group itself, I do have these two storage account which has been created. Now, one thing I have mentioned about the command, that when you have run the command, you have specified the deployment name, which is AZ deployment group, and you have specified the deployment name, which is rollout 1 by default. So what this name is all about, so this is the name of the deployment which you are going to trigger. So what is the unique name which you want to run at the given point of time? So within the same resource group scope, if you are running a deployment on the resource group scope, which we are in the current scenario, this is what the deployments name look like. So you can find the deployments which you have run from the Visual Studio Code right here in the resource group section. Under the setting, you have the deployments, and under the deployment, you can see all the deployment which has been run on this particular resource group scope. Okay, so that's the name which we have given. So any name which you can give, basically that's the name which you will find it here. So if you are running a two parallel deployment in the same resource group, so you need to make sure that this deployment name must be unique. Otherwise, one of the deployment will cancel, saying that one of the earliest deployment with the same name is running, and until that is finished, you can't run the another deployment with the same name. So that's going to be a conflict which you might get. So you need to remember that the deployment name which you are running under the same scope must have a unique name, otherwise you will get an error. Okay, so that is about the creation of the storage account for using the biceps locally from the machine itself. Obviously you can automate this in the CI/CD, which we will look into one of our demonstration. How do you automate with biceps deployment with the help of CI/CD pipeline? Okay, that's about the creating a very fast resource with biceps in Visual Studio Code and deploying the resource into the Azure environment. In the next section, we will learn about the variables and the parameters. As you can see that the current resource which we have configured, the name and the other configuration, we have provided a default values, or the not default value, we have provided the hard-coded values directly into the resource itself. But in the ideal scenario, you may want to parameterize those values and utilize this resource configuration, or utilize your automation as many as time you want, right? That's the objective. So in the next section, we will learn about different ways to define and use the variables and parameters with your biceps code. For till then, thanks for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and keep watching the playlist of these biceps. See you in the next video.